AI is a predictor. It's ingested so much information that its prediction is good. It can comb through reams of data faster than we can. Social media has enabled our human desire to share. If we didn't have this need to share that's part of our DNA, there'd be no social media. So everything has changed. Everything's always changed.
What are your views on the consumer?
First, you understand the person. What motivates you? What's important to you? What drives you? What do you want to buy? Then I know how to reach you. I think we have to be cognizant of culture. Culture is always changing. There's never been a generation that says that the generation ahead of them doesn't get it. My God, those guys are slackers. And so we have this give and take between generations always.
What was one commercial that you saw it and you were floored?
Understanding that our job as advertisers is to educate, inform, and entertain.
If this was a magic wand, and let's say you have a view of the successful use case in general in the industry, what would be a typical CMO's glide path?
Everything you know about your customer and using AI to get to the nuggets that are important. Some of us say AI is an enabler, it's a tool. It's not a tool, it's the most important game changer in the history of mankind.
Welcome to the next episode of Change Agents. This episode, we explore how digital transformation reshapes global enterprises through data, creativity, and technology-led reinvention. We dive into mindsets, models, and leadership principles required to build resilient, agile organizations in an era of rapid disruption. Our guest today is David Sable. He's a globally recognized marketing visionary, former CEO of Y&R, current vice chair of Stagwell Inc., a LinkedIn influencer, a sought-after keynote speaker. David has spent his career helping Fortune 500 companies navigate digital evolution and revolution while preserving brand purpose. He has served and is serving on influential boards, including the Ad Council, American Eagle Outfitters, Ethan Allen, UNCF, and the Special Olympics. David has been named one of Fast Company's 10 most generous marketing geniuses. David is known for connecting creativity, technology, and culture to drive meaningful transformation. Welcome, David. I am super thrilled to have you in this spot.
Well, as this is, my late mother is very grateful to you. Being said all those nice things.
You deserve so much more. You are more than what I've just described. David, you've had a remarkable career across several decades in advertising, digital transformation, global leadership. What pivotal moment or shift shaped the way you think about technology's impact on business?
So let me answer that by giving you 3 or 4 moments in my life, which were all pivotal, because each one brought me to a different place. The first was, I must have been maybe 6 years old, maybe 5, and I made a radio. So back in those days, we made crystal diode radios. We took a roll of toilet paper. We took the inside, the cardboard, wrapped a wire around it, and had a crystal diode that we put across the top, put it on the antenna to the steam pipes or whatever, and put on a pair of headphones. And the first time I heard a voice through that, it blew my mind. Literally blew my mind. And I realized, I think that was the moment I became fascinated with the whole notion of technology. The fact that wasn't just me turning on a dial and listening to the radio or watching TV, but I actually made this thing. So that was the first. I think it was incredibly important. The second, back in the day, I was working in an agency called Wellsbridge Green. We were a very famous boutique creative agency. At the time, later became a big agency, but then a boutique agency. We had a computer. We bought a Wang desktop. And it was, yay big, and it was kind of cool looking. Even for today, it was kind of cool looking. And we were trying to computerize. We were the last agency into P&G. We were the first agency that they had hired in 20 years So we were the last in and we were the smallest. And there were whole sets of media processes that you had to go through to be part of the P&G world. And it took hours. And we didn't have as many people as the other agencies did. And frankly, I hated sitting and doing that work because I'm terrible at the math. And the person I worked for was interested in computers. And we said, what if we computerize this? Like, could we do that? I had no idea what I was talking about. So they sent me to learn BASIC. So I learned basic programming. I didn't do the programming. We hired a programmer. But I learned enough to be able to talk to him. And we computerized the entire process. And we turned a process that all the other agencies were taking weeks to do. We did in minutes, hours, and it wasn't as fast as today, but we did it pretty quickly. The pivotal moment was the first time that I looked at a page of code and I said, that's it? That's what it's all about. You mean this is if this, and then it has a subroutine because it's this and this, and that's the whole thing? And it totally demystified it all for me. And from that moment on, I began to think in those terms. Like, how could I apply these things to what I was doing? The third and final one, which is the one I think that has lasted to this day, was a company called Cytex. And Cytex was famous for having been the first company that was actually able to digitize, although it wasn't called digital then, I think it's called the raster technology, but it was basically the same thing. They could digitize a picture, allow you to make changes in that picture from a negative, and then create a film to go to print. It was an incredible company. Understand, they were in this big room. The whole room was a computer. Much like in those days, computer techs, they were all wearing white coats. It was actually part of their shtick, right? That's right, of the mystique. I remember coming in to see the demo. There was a screen, maybe this big, and they were doing something for Revlon. And there was a woman's picture on the screen from the thing. And the text said, watch me change the color of her lipstick. And he took what was an early mouse and was able to change the lipstick. Now, here's the thing. This whole room full of computer, right? Today, our kids do the same thing, actually more, off of their iPads or their phones or whatever in milliseconds. This took about 20 minutes maybe to render just the lips, just the color of the lipstick. But I remember seeing that and saying, that's it, game over. That's where the world is going. And so from the first, just creating something, to the second, understanding how code works and what that means. And the third, seeing a practical application for my industry that to this day is still resonating and still has impact, really set me on a pivot for everything that I do.
Brilliant, David. You built a transistor, so you're a builder. You have seen code, you've coded, you've seen code, you believe in it.
I'm not a coder. I'm past base.
But you see the value of it, the productivity of it. And then you saw the creativity on the lipstick image. So then, and that went back on film? So it got...
Yeah, it went back on film. And today, like, that's what we do.
That's right.
Right? Today, we go right from the digital file to print. In those days, you couldn't. In those days, you went from that file, it went into a film, but that was a first. Because up until that point, if you were going to change something, you would take a little razor blade, and there were people who did. They were artists. They scraped whatever you would put in, and they would put something else in. I mean, it was pretty wild. So this was major. Now, it was a few years before it became really practical, but it didn't make a difference. It was clear that was the direction the world was going.
Outstanding, outstanding. David, you've seen this industry of branding, customer engagement, customer proximity, advertisements, marketing, the whole umbrella. You have seen in various transformations. The one transformation that you have led and shaped the industry as well as led that in businesses, helped your customers, have been part of boards engaging on those topics. So maybe you can give us some examples from that world. How did you see that? How did you see that? How did you get excited about that? I'm talking about the previous one, and then we will come to the AI the big AI one, right? We all did AI even 20 years back. But how did you engage with that? I mean, I see you. I also have the advantage of seeing you fairly frequently, and I am aware of your genius and your expertise. Let's our audience hear that.
Genius and expertise. But yeah, let's go back. I mean, how do you engage with these things? So I think the first thing is you can't be scared of it. My experience has been that people get scared. They get scared by a lot of things. First of all, they get scared to lose their jobs. They get scared that they're not going to know how to function. And then they'll lose their jobs. I mean, they get scared about a lot of stuff. And I think that there's also this fear of change. People are scared to change. Now, I have to tell you, one of the things I coined this term a bunch of years ago, digibabble. So digibabble to me is when we use the term digital as if it's some Harry Potter magic thing, right? And we talk about, oh my God, only in the digital age do we do this, or never before in the history of mankind. And that's just not true. There's almost nothing that I can think of that doesn't have its core someplace else, because we're human beings, right? I gave a talk yesterday on this. When you look at social media has enabled our human desire to share. If we didn't have this need to share that's part of our DNA, there'd be no social media. But because we have that, we've enabled it. So back when I was young, people would invite you to their house and they'd show you their boring slideshows. And then all of a sudden, I don't need to come to your house to see this slideshow. And by the way, word of mouth doesn't mean only that I meet you in the morning at the water cooler as it used to be, but you can text me something, or you can post something that I can read and others can read. So I think that the first thing to understand is that this notion that it's all new has never been changed before in the world. It's just wrong. There's always been change. From the minute I came into this industry, I started working full-time in 1976, I think. I remember coming into the agency, and the first thing I heard, there was Young and Rubicon, I was in the training program. The first thing I heard is, it's all changed. It's all changing. And the truth is that it was changing. We had, and maybe I should have put this in my pivotal moments, we had a computer. Very few agencies en masse now you had a computer. Again, this computer was literally the size of a floor. It was behind big glass doors, and again, white coats. And it was Siemens audience measurement data, right? Now, it wasn't online the way we know online today, because there was no such thing. Everything worked off of tapes. And so once a month or once every 2 weeks or whenever they made changes, they would bring the new tapes. It would take them forever to change the tapes, and then you could use the data. And the way you use the data is you went upstairs and you had a couple of little booths, and in the booth there was a phone and a modem, and you pushed the handset, some of you might remember what that is, into the modem, and you picked up this pad, you dialed the number on the pad, and then you'd connect and you'd hear it. And again, it was a type of, you basically had to learn a bit of coding to be able to do it, because it was all off of, like acronyms and using colons and semicolons and
it's all syntax and semantic.
Yeah, it was all like, so you didn't type in and say, oh, I'm interested in the audience of da-da-da, like you would do today and get this big answer. You literally had to use, codes and things and get it. So everything has changed. Everything's always changed. And I think that if you're not open to the change, if you don't get it, you're going to be left behind. But I do believe the opposite of that is true, that if you think you are the only change, if you think that nothing has ever changed, so you're not learning from what was, your use of whatever it is that you're in my view, is third rate. Not even second grade, it's third rate. Because you haven't looked at best practices. You haven't looked to see, like, what did people do before they had that same enablement? Somehow, they managed to do all that stuff. if you don't get that, you'll never be able to make the best use of what you have. So I think that what I always try to preach and teach is that embrace change. It's just everything is changing. It's all the time. Just don't be scared of it. Try to be always at the bleeding edge of knowing, but never at the bleeding edge of using. Be at the leading edge of using, and sometimes not even at the leading edge. Because sometimes first mover advantage is actually, in the long run, the loser position. Because if you hang back a little bit, like it's a marathon, hang back a little bit and watch the leader crumble because actually they don't know what they're doing and they're not learning, but you're watching the mistakes. And if you're able to assimilate the mistakes and turn it into practical vision, then you're going to win.
100%. When I buy my devices, I wait for the first 2 months since the release. I wait for the kinks to be ironed out, and then I sort of buy it in the third or the fourth month after the release of any of the devices that I buy. Very well said, David. I completely agree and resonate with you. What are your views on the consumer? So how we approach consumer, you're very well articulated. How is the consumer? Are they the same? Are they changing? Are you seeing a mix, especially multi-generational consumers? The device is in everybody's hands. So what, billions of people are using AI? So how is the consumer behavior?
So let me go back to and build off of what I just said. Let's get rid of all the devices. Let's get rid of all the tech for a minute. Let's get rid of everything. It's just you and me and a bunch of people. So that's the place you start. Right? No matter how you look at it, the USP is a unique singular person. We are all unique singular people. We have imprinted in us millions of years of DNA, of behavior, of understanding. We live in countries, in places, in cities, in towns, whatever, in cultures that have culture imprinted on top of that. Specific culture. Sometimes it's our religious culture, sometimes it's ethnic culture, sometimes it's all of it together. So that's where we start. You have to start with a person. Then you layer on all the other things that are basically enablers of what happens. So think about this, right? You lived in the United States in the late 1800s, and you lived somewhere in the Midwest. There were no telephones yet. Your nearest neighbor was a couple of miles away. The snow would come and literally bury you in for 2 months, right? You had no device. You weren't watching streaming movies. You were just sitting there. And yet, this incredible innovation came along called the Sears Wish Book.
Repeat that?
The Sears Wish Book.
Oh, Sears Wish Book. Okay.
The catalog.
Yeah.
And if you read the cover of the Sears Wish Book from the 1880s, 1890s, it literally is word for word the Amazon manifesto of today. It's to aggregate in one place the riches of the world, to get it to our customers as quickly as possible, at the best price possible, yada, 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 yada. That was a huge innovation. Changed the world. It used everything that technology had brought. So it used the railways, it used the postal, it used the last mile delivery, it used everything. And I'll tell you, I've spoken about this a lot because I think we have yet to make our relationship with digital buying this interactive. So now imagine yourself in that little sod hut in the middle of the Midwest with the snow all around you. People would take that Sears catalog and they'd read it to each other by candlelight. And if you've ever seen it, it had beautiful little ink drawings of the things. They would rip out the pages of the things that they would order and they'd put them on the wall as art.
Oh.
And that was their aspiration. That's what kept them going through the winter. And then the thaw came, the spring thaw, and the horse wagon came and brought the stuff. And you'd get it and would be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And you'd pull out your plow or you pull out whatever the heck you pull out. And then, and this is famous, by the way, you would take the wood from the packaging and you'd make fences, outhouses. It's like, it's pretty crazy because everything was recycled. Everything was usable. So that to them was every bit as much an innovation as us going online and buying from Amazon today. Full stop.
That's right.
So I think again, it's that same notion. It's first you understand the person. What motivates you? What's important to you? What drives you? What do you want to buy? Then I know how to reach you, or I should know how to reach you because I know you're on a device. I know you walk down the street and you're looking at, billboards. I know, like, for example, and I say I know, conventional wisdom, the problem with conventional wisdom is that this morning's disruption very quickly becomes tonight's conventional wisdom. And we think conventional wisdom is old. My point being that what we think is disruptive becomes, if we just keep thinking that that's the only way to do things, that's the problem. We see disruption, what we call disruption. I don't think it is separate issue. And then because we turn that into conventional, that becomes the only way to do things. It's just not true, right? So I think we have to be cognizant of culture. Culture is always changing. There's never been a generation that says that the generation ahead of them doesn't get it. There's never been a generation that looks at the generation behind them and says, my God, those guys are slackers. And so we have this give and take between generations always. They don't get it. They don't work hard enough. They don't work hard enough. They don't get it. It's just the way of the world, right? So I think that if we fall into that trap, we never use the tools as best as we can. We don't make full use of the enablement of the tech because tech is just enablement. We don't let it enable us enough because we make that the be all and the end all, and it's not. It's just the enabler.
100%. One more question on your journey. If there was one commercial that you watched and maybe you built it, your team built it, or somebody else built it, what was one commercial that you saw it and you were floored and you thought this is vital and it went viral, or something that so popped? I'm sure you've seen so many of those.
My God, what was the best commercial I ever saw? I don't know. Honestly, I get asked questions like that a lot. And the truth is, I'm not sure I can actually answer it because, first of all, I love commercials. I can sing commercial songs from 50 years ago. Jingles and things just because, and I remember the commercials. But if I would think of one, move me the most, maybe.
Reflect on it, maybe. And also towards the end, we would like you to sing something, David. So keep that in mind as well.
The singing later, but honestly, I don't know. I think that there have been so many great commercials. There have been. I think that the work is getting better again. We're getting back to doing work that's thoughtful, that is rooted in insight of people, that's funny, that has a little humor to it. Or if it's not meant to be funny, has a little sadness to it, but understanding that our job as advertisers is to educate, inform, and entertain. It's pretty simple. But you have to do all three. I have to educate you about what it is I'm telling you. I have to entertain you, otherwise you're not going to watch it. And entertainment, again, can be sad or funny or whatever. And I have to inform you. I have to let you know where you can get it, what you need to do to be a part of it. One of the ones that I do like talking about, though, actually, sometimes now that you ask the question, there was a very famous advertisement, I won't say commercial because it wasn't a commercial. It was an advertisement that ran only in 2 subway stations in New York City. Posters.
Okay.
To this day, if you ask people who were around then, this is probably the late 60s, and you remind them of the campaign, they will tell you, oh, I loved the television commercials. The radio was incredible. The print ads were amazing. I saw it every place. And the truth is, it only ran in 2 subs.
Wow. And got so much coverage.
Well, here's what happened. It got a lot of coverage. So like today, we would call it going viral.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. These guys would all be much wealthier today if they understood that concept. And then it ended up in poster shops. It ended up in windows. Everybody wanted one. And it was for a little company called Levy's Jewish Rye. And the campaign was, you don't have to be Jewish to love Levy's. And it was a picture of a nun or a picture of an, Native American or a picture, whatever it was, but people who I shouldn't say obviously, because maybe they could have been, but who weren't. But in people's obvious first glance look, were not Jewish. It was brilliant.
Brilliant.
Got across the notion, and everybody went for it. Another one that I always loved. So Stiller and Mira, it's Jerry Stiller's parents, and Ann Mira was an incredible woman. I had worked with her on a commercial way back in the day. Ben Stiller's parents, rather, and Jerry Stiller was Ben's father and Ann's husband. And they had this whole routine about how she's this Irish American girl and he's this Jewish boy, and they meet and they're going out. That was their whole shtick, right? Ed Sullivan loved them. They were on the Ed Sullivan show all the time, and everybody, I'm looking at the camera now, like, you should look them up because they are hysterical. And Ben Stiller just did it's worth watching. He did a whole documentary on his parents, which was actually quite beautiful. Anyways, here's this radio spot that they did was about a wine called Blue Nut. Now, here's the insight. Back in those days, Americans didn't drink wine. It was not a drink. Like, one of the reasons they didn't drink it is because they were worried about the French names. They couldn't read them. They didn't want to look stupid. And so there's this guy who owned literally a warehouse full of this German wine called Blue Nut. It was actually pretty crappy wine, and it sold for like whatever price it was, had a screw cap. I couldn't move it, and he went to this very famous ad guy, Jerry Delafamina, who also I had the privilege of knowing, and he basically said to Jerry, look, take this. If you give me, I just want $1 a bottle, or whatever it is. Any price that you can get me above that is yours. So Jerry came up with this campaign, and Jerry claims, and this is the critical thing, that he was flying from New York to Los Angeles, and someplace over the middle of the country, he looked down and says, oh my God, there's a big country out there. The insight being that we very often, particularly young people, get locked into
target-based edges. Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's a zillion people.
Yeah.
And the whole campaign was about how Blue Nun, like they're sitting, I mean, it's just so funny. They're sitting in the restaurant, and he goes, oh, how about a little Blue Nut? And Anne says, oh my God, is she here? Is Sis and Teresa here? Or she can't see us together? And he said, no, I mean the wine. It became like all you had to do was ask for Blue Nut. And they turned this crappy wine into a premium wine. And I made a lot of money and very advertised.
Fantastic.
So again, I think it's this notion of having an insight and being able to entertain, educate, inform.
Fabulous. So, David, let's talk about AI. Now, this is the wave, and can't have a conversation or a meeting or see a feed, a social media feed, or read anything today without something about AI coming up. And of course, in your space, as well as, I mean, you're a business leader. You're certainly an amazing brand builder, marketer, but you're also a business leader. So maybe talk to us about AI. How do you see this? I take resonance from what you said. It's a tool, change, and people would embrace it, not bleeding edge, appropriate leading edge, or maybe even behind. Where do you see AI play a role? How would you see AI play a role in your space, but also in general as a business?
So I think the first thing to understand is that AI is here. So and it drives me crazy, like people have the discussion And there's been a lot written about this. People having a discussion about, oh, what's our AI strategy? No, you don't need an AI strategy. AI is here. It's not like, what's your strategy? The question is, what do you have that you can empower and enable more through AI? So I think that the first thing is we still have like blockchain fear.
Yes.
And so we went through this period, and I'm sure you remember, where every company in the world had the blockchain strategy, and Accenture and those companies were making zillions of dollars coming in and telling everybody how if you didn't have a blockchain ledger within a year, your company was going to go down. So of course it's not true. Of course, most companies don't have. I mean, there's certainly big use for blockchain. There's no question, but not the way everybody.
That's right.
So
Not the way we thought about it 10 plus years back.
That was it. It was blockchain was going to cure cancer. It was that's the end. And I think that we're sort of in that phase though, where people are thinking, oh my God, and what are we going to do? Is this like blockchain? Is it not? Is it going to change? It's here. It works. It's here. So the first thing is you have to understand what it is. And I think like everything else, that's why I always use that example of my understanding code. You have to understand what AI is. Like, how does a large language model work? How does a small language model work? What's agentic AI? What does an agent do? Do I need to have my own LLM? Hell no. 90% of the world doesn't, but you do need to have agents because that's the whole point, right? And then you put your data in, and then that's how. So I think that and you keep that private, by the way. AI is a predictor, basically, right? It's ingested so much information that its prediction is good. Like it knows that there's going to be a B after the A and a C after the B. Like that's pretty good, right? So I think that's important. The second thing about AI is that it can comb through reams of data faster than we can. And so one of the great examples that I've seen, and this goes back almost to COVID, people were working on stuff like this. The first one, AI is not new. We called it machine learning before. It was called something else before that. So this is just the latest iteration because again, as our coding gets more powerful, as our chips get powerful, and it's a combination of the two, right? So as we're able to do this and keep going, like it just makes it all more powerful. So I met a young guy whose father had died of a very particular type of lung cancer. And he went and literally fed in to the model millions of scans of
his father's medical record.
Forget his father's record. From every
So he got that. Somehow he got that. Okay.
And including the ones that were definitely this thing.
Okay.
And then all kinds of other. And so the idea was that you could now take any scan of any new person, put the scan in and say, okay, is it or not? And the chance that it is or not has just increased because you've checked it against millions of scans that have already proven out. Now, even then, you still want to have somebody look at it just to be safe.
That's right.
Let's be really clear. I think we all know that AI hallucinates.
That's right.
Makes mistakes. We pretend that it doesn't happen, but it does.
The human in the loop, the human on the loop. Yeah.
So I think AI is enabled as a report. So that's number one. So I think if you understand that, it works. So first you look at your company. Let's just be practical. And you say, okay, what do I have that is just repetitive? And I got a bunch of people sitting there being bored, but they sort of have to do this work because I have no other way to do it. Oh, wait a second. I mean, I can use AI to go through all of that and pull out. Why not? And so we're seeing a lot of that, which I think is amazing. We have people, obviously, we have issues like in school, people writing their theses and stuff on AI. Interesting enough, you always read about the ones who get caught out because the AI makes a mistake or quotes something that's not a real quote.
That's right.
or whatever. And I test it all the time just to see. And what I find fascinating is there'll be a quote and I'll say, well, this is the wrong quote. And say, well, I thought that's what you wanted. And then you write back and you say, well, no, I wanted a real quote. Oh, I was just trying to fill the request.
That's right. It's trying to answer your question and makes up stuff along the way.
Yeah, as well.
I literally type in, don't make up stuff and show me the verifiable source.
Yeah, and I think when you do that, it definitely does change the relation. I think that those are the two critical things that we need to understand. And so once you do that, I think if you bring AI in at the level where it makes the most sense to begin with, the other use cases are going to show up. I think the problem is we don't think use case, and I'm a big believer in use case, right? I think that any tech implementation needs to be done around a use case, because we've all seen what happens when you come in and you buy the tech package from whoever and you don't use any of it because you never really put it against a use case. Somebody told you you needed it. Somebody told you you had to have it. And so that's not a good place to be. So I'm all about use cases. Give me the use case. Let's discuss the use case. And now let's find the right place for the AI. And I think that's how we're going to be successful.
So you are, let's say you're the CMO of a company. You advise, you mentor, you serve, your company serves these as customers. So what would be a CMO's glide path? So yes, you start with use cases. And in what happened in the industry, David, as you know, is a year or so back, there was a use case paralysis. So every company had literally 1,000 list of use cases. They were sorting it by priority and impact and result and ease of implementation. And then they went nowhere. They got stuck in this use case paralysis. People are digging themselves up. People are creating and focusing on the nuggets. And of course, tooling has improved. Platforms have improved. If this was a magic wand, and let's say you have a view of the successful use case in general in the industry, what would be a typical CMO's glide path?
So CMOs have a different glide path, right? Because CFO is the one who's doing, and the COO are doing. The CMO is about typically two things, I would argue, maybe three, but two for sure. One is understanding audience and understanding everything that relates to that audience. So again, the ability for AI to comb through tons of data to look at, to me, and I've seen some great agentic AI where each piece feeds the next piece. That's how it's written. So, first maybe I take cultural, like what's important in the culture. Then I look at my target audience and I say, okay, who here fits that? And then I look at the next thing and the next thing and the next. So I think that's a critical thing, looking at everything you know about your customer and using AI to get to the nuggets that are important. And so what's everything you know about your customer? Some of it is your first party data. So it's whatever you have on the customer, it's their address, it's, male, female, it's whatever else you have, it's gender, it's whatever else you have. Do you have, then what third party data can you bring in, more cultural data? So that's one. The second, and the one that gets a lot of play, obviously, is generative AI. What can I do? Can I create all my videos using AI? For the second year in a row, Coke did their annual Christmas thing. They did it last year, they did it this year. Same results both years. People are writing it soulless. Like, why do I really care? So first of all, if you do it, who cares that you used AI? We've been using CGI forever.
That's right.
Right? You don't speak about, oh my God, CGI, and I'll get to that in a second. And by the way, if you go back to the earliest movies ever made, after they figured out how to make a movie, people started putting in special effects. Now in those days, obviously they weren't digital, but go look at the original Alibaba, silent movie, and you can see Alibaba's flying rug flying across, and people or the rocket ships going up. People wanted to do it. So each generation of technology created more and more because that's what we wanted to do. I wanted to be able to see a rocket ship go up. That's right. It wasn't just because I said, oh yeah, let me show a rocket ship, because I want to show it, right? So the truth is, if you think about it, and I could be wrong, but like the dragons in Game of Thrones, I think are CGI, unless they actually found real dragons. But what's really interesting is that most of it is shot on location. So we actually went through a period of time where we said everything was going to be CGI. Nobody would do, studios were dead. Nobody was ever going to go again. There was no need. Why would I go on location to shoot something? Because I could put a background in on a green screen and drop in whatever I wanted to. But very quickly you realize the difference between real and not real, no matter how good CGI is. I mean, those dragons do look real. I think you just get to this place where people want real. You know you're being fooled, but you love it. What you don't want is to pretend you're not being fooled.
Yeah.
Which is what the AI people want to do. And I think that's a mistake. Like, we know it's CGI. It's okay. Because I've suspended...
But it's like Back to the Future 1.
I've suspended my reality already. It's good. I love it. I'm being entertained. I don't want to be hey-hi. This is not like about the AI. It's about my entertainment. So I think the question there is, think about the relationships you have with your movies or your TV or whatever. It doesn't matter. And I'm not talking about like K-pop Demon Hunters, or any of the other obviously animated stuff, which, by the way, even then use well-known actors to do the voices and stuff because people like that. Do you want to fall in love with an avatar? And maybe one day we will. Maybe our children's children will be watching movies that are all AI and it's all avatars. None of it's real and they're not real people. And maybe the avatars will have Brad Pitt, whoever at the time, avatar. And we'll all love that avatar and be able to, have copies of that avatar and maybe that is the next thing. I hope not. Well, I seriously hope not, because I think there's a soullessness to that.
100%. But the usage in a workflow, let's say you're iterating with an agency and the agency just basic ideation, and then you do the real thing, but really put the effort into the soul and the storytelling of the ad. The commercial is not about, the tool is the tool. CGI, human beings or AI is a tool. They are parts of the scene, but the story of the commercial is going to trump no matter what.
So the question is, could you do that? Could the AI do this story? Sure. I mean, there have been AI stories. Will it be as good? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe if it is your story and you put it in and you work it. So that's fine. That's like, think about like just working with your partner. It's Rogers and Hammerstein. So it's just Rogers and Hammer AI. I don't know.
Human plus.
Okay. How did that work?
So the human plus. So I think we are where we are as just human beings. The human plus is AI is your partner.
If all you're doing though is just taking that AI, then I think you're ruining the potential. Here's the story that I tell. This is just my view. I've had this argument a couple of times with some people who take exception to the fact that some of us say AI is an enabler, it's a tool. It's not a tool, it's the most important game changer in the history of mankind, yada, yada, yada. So I don't know if you've ever been to Milan and seen Last Supper.
I've not seen Last Supper, but I've been to Milan, unfortunately.
So
I should go back again.
I love Milan. It's the best place to shop. But Last Supper is a must, right? So you walk in, and today is preserved. You walk through these airlocks. It's actually pretty cool. And they tell you, don't ask me about the Da Vinci Code. Not interested. Keep that outside. Afterwards, you want to talk about it, maybe. So you walk into the nave. You walk into like the monastery. And if you have a really good guide, they tell you, close your eyes when you walk in. Oh, look. So you close your eyes. They say, now turn to the left. And you turn to the left, and on the wall is this huge fresco. By Giovanni, it was a name last time I remember, who was the #1 artist in Milan at the time. Very famous. Milan, he was the guy. And it's like, you look at it, it's like pretty cool. Your typical Renaissance type monastery fresco. It's Jesus in the center on the cross. The perspective is kind of flat. It's got a bunch of people in it. a lot of white space because it's fresco, like pretty typical.
Okay.
Then they say, now turn to your right.
Oh.
And you turn to your right and you have to look up because there on the top is the Last Supper.
Oh.
And the first thing that I remember thinking is, going like this, like, how is that possible? Da Vinci was not a well-known artist at the time in Milan. He was getting known elsewhere, but not in Milan. And they took a risk on it. Right? They took a flyer. They weren't sure, but there were people who wanted it, and they championed it. So he paints this thing that looks like nothing anyone has ever seen before. So he's basically taking hundreds of years, however many years it's been of Renaissance art, and thrown it out. It's completely different. Everything about it is different. The perspectives are different. The way the hands are painted are different. The colors are different. The way Jesus is seated is different. Everything about it is different. So I looked at that and I say, okay, if AI existed at that point, we would have fed the 200 years of Renaissance art into the Ola. And we would have trained the agent to be able to pull out the next piece. But the next piece that it would pull out would have to be based on that, because that's all it would know. It could never do.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Never.
Wonderfully said.
So that's my view. I call it the Da Vinci factor, and that's my hope for mankind. Now, I've been told by some AI people, oh, no, we'll get to the Da Vinci one day. So maybe you will, maybe you won't.
And we will be open-minded, right? You will. I know you're open-minded to see it when it gets there. But right now, with what we have, that's a great example. David, I know you're a prolific LinkedIn blogger. Is this one of your blogs yet?
Yes.
Oh, I have to go back and look at it. Somehow I missed it.
It is, and it's also, I'm very proud, it's in a Harvard business case.
Absolutely awesome.
The
Okay.
professor, Suresh Srinivasan, thought it was such a good
Article that is registered when HBR.
he put it into
I have to go back and read it. That's a fantastic example, and I have to use it. So you're a big believer in AI, use case driven, value driven for the right purposes. Where do you think the impact is at? Now I'm talking to David, the CEO, the business leader, the chair, vice chair, the board director. What kind of impact and results? We tend to measure results in certain ways in businesses. So what are your views? There's a lot of views. There's a lot of numbers that are thrown around, and you have a great way of storytelling, just like you did a moment ago. Where do you see this? What kind of contribution do you see come out of this for businesses?
First of all, I think there's only, look, today we measure everything that can be measured. And as we know, we can measure everything that can be measured, but we shouldn't be measuring everything that needs to be measured. Right?
That's great.
Like Lester Wonderman told me this years ago. But we think that because we can measure everything, we think we should measure everything. In my view, there's only two measurements of success for business that are actually important. Now, having said that, there's a lot more. Like the people happy, I get that. I'm just talking about success of the business, which then drives everything else that you can do. The first is, did you sell whatever it is that you
Sure.
Like you're making money. Or
That's right. Did you convert?
If you know,
Did you make the revenue? Yeah.
then anything else that you want to talk, you could be the best business in the world. You're going to go under in a year. So did you sell? Are you selling? And are your sales sustainable for the long term? Like you're making a profit, and that's it. That's the measurement, because if you measure that and you understand that, then by definition, you're going to drive everything else. You're going to drive innovation because you're thinking of the long term. Well, you're going to drive keeping your people happy because you know you need your people to do it. You're going to drive the AI because you see how that's heading to your profit.
Make sure the products are meeting the needs of the customer. So everything downstream follows with that. Did you reach the customer and did you sell?
Right. But if you don't do that, it's like, what's the point?
What else is very well said? Simple metrics. And so let's talk about some other things. I've always admired about you. You've had an amazing career. What gives you the confidence and courage? There is a storyteller in you. You're one of the very few multifaceted people to the extent you are that I've met in my life. And you have this you're fairly humble. I've observed you. You're fairly humble, but also very courageous. So what propelled you? What courage? This is more of a personal journey story, David. What gave you the courage in your life? I'm sure your life had challenges. We all do. So how did you sort of continue to motivate yourself and give yourself the courage along the journey?
So first of all, my motto, which is on the wall of the gym in my house, is do it big or stay in bed. So if every morning I can't wake up,
go big or go home. So this is
and think about can I do something better today than I did yesterday? Can I change the world in another way? Then it's why bother to get up? So I'm very motivated always. I think, I've been asked this question before, and it's actually a pretty simple answer. My late grandfather was a very simple guy. He came from Russia. He escaped the pogroms of the Tsarist times, came to America, young man who's probably underage, joined the U.S. Army, went back to Europe in World War I, came out, honorable discharge, and spent the rest of his life being grateful to the country that had given him this opportunity to find freedom. And, he spoke broken English literally till the day he died. And he spoke a combination of Russian, Yiddish, English, all kind of mixed up. Lived in Kingston, New York, a little town then. Now it's a hot place. But back in those days, this little depression town up near Albany. And he always told us, he didn't know the word entitlement, trust me, never heard it, wouldn't know what it meant to be. But he always said, the world owes you nothing. You owe the world. That's a direct quote. It's stuck with me all these years. And that's sort of what drives me. I just feel like nobody owes me anything. I don't believe in entitlement. And I think that's what's driven me. This notion that I have to go out and earn it every day. Every day I have to do something new, not just to prove to other people, it's to prove myself that I have value. And I owe it to the world to do it. I have a great life. We live in a world. It's our job to try to make it a better place. It's no one else's. And I think that's really, honestly, what's driven me. I just feel this notion, I see kids today who are so entitled. These young people come in, the first question they ask you is, do I have to come into the office? I spoke to our interns over the summer quite a few times. And so we did one session on what do we need to do to be successful. So I said, I'll tell you what you should not do. If you want to be successful, don't be the guy who comes in and says, do I have to come in? Can I work from home? Why is that your first question? Why don't you ask, wow, well, I'm really excited because I can see how much I can learn. And I also want to give back. I want you to be that person because you'll get the job. And show up, by the way. And show up every day in the office. Be the first one in, like I was for years, Stellar. That's the difference. I in my new job at Stagwell. So what does it mean to be vice chairman? It basically means nothing. I'm not on the board, so it's I don't know where I'm vice chairman. But it's a great company. I love it. And I love being here. And I work for great Mark Penn, Jay Leviton. These are great people. But I spent my life with an ever-growing span of control. So I was the first person in my age cohort all those years ago who had somebody report to them. Oh my God, what do you do? Somebody report. What's that old man? I was the first person who had to hire somebody. And then it just kept growing until finally I had, 25,000 people and hundreds of offices reporting to me. And that span of control is pretty big. But at the end of the day, that span of control is an org chart. It's have nothing to do with that. It's an org chart. Span of influence is different. Span of influence, you have to earn every second.
That's right.
And so today I have a span of influence, but that influence is only as good as whatever value I deliver. And if I don't deliver value, nobody's going to come to be influenced, because they're not going to care. Why would they waste their time? So I think that's humbling too. You realize that that's sort of the value that you're living in. It's like your currency is what you can deliver to somebody, what you can do. It's not you're on an org chart and somebody has to listen to you.
That's right.
Way different.
100%. So we are down to two last questions. One is we are in December 2025. 2026 is right around the corner. What do you see? If you had a crystal ball, what would you see? Just anything. So, do you see positivity? Do you see less volatility? Do you see peace? Do you see?
So I'm in the. I actually started writing my annual piece for the past 20 years or something. I write, and every year I call it my cloudy crystal ball, because it is very cloudy, and lately it's been actually muddy, not just cloudy. Although if you do go on LinkedIn and read back years, you'll see that my prediction is actually good.
And you do you calibrate that?
I recap every year if they have.
I think I've read the past ones.
I recap it always just to say like how close I was or not to what the thing is. I think looking forward, it's kind of hard. I think we're still in a period of flux. I think I think next year will be an interesting ride. I think we're still going to have a lot of ups and downs. Will there be a bubble in AI? Maybe, maybe not. But it really doesn't matter, because even if there is, it's kind of like the digital bubble. It will come back. And the reason that there was a digital bubble was a digibabble, so all this AI babble.
I was wondering what you're going to call this, because the digibabble was nicely settled.
But it's the same thing. But it'll come back, and we'll be, it's like I'm always amazed at how 2 months ago all the genius analysts are writing how NVIDIA was going under, and now it's like the oddest stock, right? They write every year. We read an article about how Apple is faltering, and then like the next quarter,
it'll come back. And you reported Gemini a few days back. You posted on the Gemini, the Google Alphabet come back.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't believe they came back. I think they're always there. It's just idiot panelists who have no accountability for anything and say whatever they want. Nobody ever holds, and they never look back to what they said. So they just say what they want to say every day. They get paid for it. They get there, and they drive stock prices that their people do well with, and that's the end of it, right? So I just think looking forward, we're going to see more adoption of AI around practicality, practical use cases. I think we're going to see more humanity. I really do believe it. I think we're starting to see it already. I think we're going to see people feeling the need to show their humanity more in various ways. I mean, we're already seeing Gen Zs going back to malls. Many of us said malls weren't dead when other people were saying they were. I never believed they were completely dead. I think the good ones were always alive. But again, we're seeing Gen Z going because they want to be together. They don't want to be locked into rooms and just,
my Gen Z guy only shops in stores.
Yeah, and just scrolling all day, which they still do, which is fine. But they also want to have a little bit of a life, and they want to go to movies. I went to the movies and we saw Zootopia 2, which
did you like it?
It's cute, but it became the #1 movie over the weekend again, which means a lot of people went to see it. And we sat in the theater. What amazed me was there were grandparents, parents, kids, grandchildren. Like, it was pretty cool. It was everybody chomping down their popcorn. The smell of the popcorn I love, So I think we're going to see, if I think there's one big thing we're going to see, I think it's going to be this notion of people looking for humanity. And so what I would urge is for everybody to think about what they do, what businesses they're in, and what's the human connection. How can they take that human connection and work on it so that they have something to be for, and give people a sense for. I just wrote a piece about how we're so obsessed with being against things we don't have enough people who afford things.
Oh.
So I was talking to one of the major pharma companies last night. I said, what are you guys doing with a new healthcare secretary, Robert Kennedy? I think all you're doing is being against him, but you're not telling me what I should be for. What should I be for? And that's different. And so I think we're going to have to lean into humanity. You say AI is not going to solve that problem.
Oh.
Right? AI is not going to tell us the backside or not backside. It's God, get any answer you want from it.
Yeah.
All right, crawler, give me the right agent, though.
Social media's influence is quite big, right? You're an influencer, and I follow you as an influencer and think of the full impact of Insta and every single social media platform. They do wield a lot of influence. So I think we are still in the early stages of AI's influence, and it is going to begin that. And my fear is just how we will manage the risk that comes with it.
Mine too, but I think that if we lean into our humanity and people ask questions and say, why? Who am I listening to? Why am I listening to them? What do they tell? I think that's going to change.
100%. 100%. Well, we can do another podcast on the risk aspect, but this is amazingly awesome, David. I haven't heard you do a full formal song, but I've heard you hum every once in a while, and I've thought, wow, David has that. Were you trained professionally?
No.
But you have something in you.
Yeah, I mean, all the years in school, I was always.
Oh, you were in the choir, and you do sing at your place of worship.
Like lead services occasionally.
Ah, okay. So maybe a small thing for us.
Do I have to sing? All right. So I'll answer your question about the future.
Okay.
With a song.
Wow.
Just not the song, just the refrain.
Okay.
The song.
That's great presence of mind. Amazing. Thank you.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. And that is David Sable, Vice Chair at Stagwell, Board Director at multiple public and private companies. He is a marketing genius, business leader, transformer, influencer. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Lovely, lovely.